welcome back speakers, welcome back audience, and it's a pleasure for the Q&A. We have about 15 minutes for this, and it's a huge topic, many of the subjects you covered, but let's see if we can focus in on some of them. And there is a very specific question, Mojtaba, from the audience, and I will read it and hope that you can answer it for us. And it said, could you share how 360-degree HDRs were captured? Are tools such as HDR scope or photosphere capable of generating HDRs from 360-degree multi-exposure JPEGs?
Not technically. Actually, I'm not saying that the tools are capable or not, but we don't use those tools in our research. Well, we use 360 degrees cameras, commercial camera available. I'm not telling the mark in the the model in the conference, but we use it, and then we capture multiple images, bracket images from very bright to very dark images, and then we use the algorithm available in OpenCV for HDR generation to generate the HDR with the algorithm in this library, and then we use a method developed by Mehlika Inanichi to calibrate all channels of the HDR images.
Great, thank you. Cehao, I wanted to ask you a little broader question because I think it's very interesting at how you're looking at light, dividing it. But the thing that resonated with me that many times architects speak about is the temporal nature of architecture, of spaces. And you seem to try to come to grips with that. Could you talk a little bit more about that? And is this an area that you think the future will be researched more and more, or you think that is sufficient the way things are being done today?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think in the future, in the temporal domain, we will have to put more emphasis on that because our environment is dynamic. And people trying to tackle the complex environment in a static way, and it might not be sufficient anymore. And our results has shown in the temporal domain, there are a lot of dynamics. The next stage should be understanding what kind of perceptual units would be meaningful and how we can translate those perceptual sensitivity into our design in the temporal fashion.
Great, thank you, thank you. Veronica, there's a kind of a big question for you, and again, it's more a philosophical question, and I'm really glad that the member of the audience asked it because it was something that was on my mind. And it has to do with the understanding of sectors of the population, such as elderly or young or disabled. And I know you said repeatedly that everyone is different, and it's very important to understand that not everyone in a group is exactly the same. But what about the definition of health or well-being in terms of universal health, universal accessibility, understanding that in every point in life, we all need help, we all need care of some type. And so perhaps when you're looking at the elderly, the changes that you're proposing would be really important if someone has, I don't know, broken a leg or broken an arm or has a temporary illness and they need their environment modified. So the member of the audience wants to know, what about approaches to building design to create strategies that are appropriate for all rather than one group? How can you react to that point?
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. I think people in design and interactive design look at this a lot. And sometimes I think the idea that when we design for all, we design for nobody And so we need to be careful that it might not be that easy, that things might need to be different, and we should be looking at how to design the environment, either the luminous environment or the environment in general, responding to people's needs. I think that it is difficult, and as the same way that lighting is dynamic and it changes throughout the day and throughout the year, our lives are dynamic as well, and the interactions with the environment are very dynamic. And I think we're designing in a way that is too potentially static, and we need to be able to understand that interaction between people and the environment a lot better. And that I think we'll be able to do that when we have more integrated kind of groups that working to respond to this problem. So designers, engineers, health people, like we will be able to understand how to respond to these problems in a better way.
Great. Kevin, I'm interested in Mojtaba when he spoke about extreme conditions.
Yeah.
And I guess I had a question for him because it seems that Veronica's approach, multidisciplinary teams are really good, but what about multidisciplinary from the point of view of incorporating technology into not only your studies, but into making responsive environments? It would seem that in very extreme situations, this may be helpful. Mojtaba, are you a lover of technology?
Yeah, sure, definitely. I'm actually I had a background in engineering and architecture, and now I'm working with biologists. I have a supervisor in medicine, and I have a supervisor in building engineering and computer vision, and a couple of supervisors in architecture. And I think technology is good. Definitely, it's a good solution for several of our needs. But the point is, in Arctic regions, at least in such extreme climates, it's not that much easy to import technology or use technologies. Not only we need specific technologies adapted to the climatic conditions, but also cultural aspects of the community there. But also it's very expensive, and it's very difficult to transport and to install the technologies there. I mean, the price of construction, technically, it's very higher in northern Canada than lower Canada. So, and also, like in terms of the lighting, this dynamic solution for lighting, it's not something that it's very populated in northern Canada, yes. And I think we need to further focus on integrate disciplinaries and adapted the technologies for different climates and cultures.
Mm-hmm. You have a question,
Yeah,
Kevin?
I do, yeah. I was curious, Veronica, if you would share a little bit about what you're most excited about. I think the culture is becoming more and more aware of the importance of light and life, and aging in place is becoming more and more important, and mental health and stability and community. So with the emerging technologies that Mojtaba was just speaking about, as well as with your platform, what are you most excited about?
What I'm more excited about? That's it's a great question. Difficult one. So I am excited about like we as researchers, as designers, as people interested in lighting, on the effect that we can have on people's health and well-being. I'm quite passionate about that. And even though that we're in a place like Australia where we're supposed to be sunny and beautiful, and every day is perfect. It's interesting how for all the populations they have issues with vitamin D And so what it means is like they're still spending a lot of the time indoors. So we need to do something even in this kind of climates for them to help them to access natural light. So it's the possibilities that this brings for design and for early populations, and I think the possibilities of simple solutions, understanding simple solutions, and the possibilities of more complex solutions as well. So it's not just technology; it could just be simple, passive solutions as well that can be used. But all these tools are there for us to improve health and well-being for elderly people.
Yeah.
You mentioned flexibility, and I'm wondering about this possibility of flexibility. See how flexibility, not only in your experiments and adapting them to different situations, different cultural environments, but how do you see the translation into physical environments? Do you hope that those environments as well, the space we inhabit, is more flexible in the future or responsive in some way?
I completely agree, and I did see the trend is happening at the moment due to the advance of the LED technologies. For instance, nowadays there are spectrum tunable lamps that have more than 3 channels, which each channel can actually have very specific wavelengths, and overall they can provide a very smooth daylight metamirrors, allows us to mimic the dynamism of daylight. And these technologies becoming more and more affordable and being used in the practical scenarios. And I do find that this would be the future trend by using the light as a driven source to enhance the dynamism of our building environment.
Thank you. And Veronica and Mojtaba, have you had interaction with the users? I'm sure you have, but in speaking with people who live in buildings and asking them about their perceptions, do you find that they're sensitive to the whole subject of light? Do they make assumptions that are erroneous, and perhaps through your research you can point out something that you've found in the research that maybe they have misinterpreted? Or what is your relationship with the user groups that you're studying?
I can go first if you want.
Thank you, Veronica.
So what I think for me it's been a transformation from where I started with my research to where I am now, and where we used to before trying to understand the problems just from the built environment, more and more realizing that people interact with the environment and interact with blinds and interact with lighting, and the way we design things sometimes are not used the way they should. And one of the things that I learned this year with one of my PhD students' projects, where we were doing a lot of ethnographic observations of people in office buildings using blinds and trying to correlate the stimulus of lighting to glare, and to understand if it was the stimulus of lighting that will make people put the blinds down, and realize that it's not the stimulus of lighting. Is that at one point they might have had issues with glare, but what happened is more behavioral things where they does happen in the past, and then they go and put the blinds down anyway. So it was the distance to the window that was something that was more that correlated to more to people putting blinds down or not. And so what I started to understand now is like, we need to understand what people do, what they do. We did all these observations to see what they were doing, but the next stage is now is actually go and ask what is happening, why you do the things, and it's the importance of putting together
Okay.
not only so we need subjective measures and objective measures and observations to provide better solutions.
Mojtaba, we're going to have to cut you off unless you can say in 5 seconds.
Yeah, sure. I just want to say, yeah, we visited northern Canada, northern Quebec, and we had discussions, group discussions with people there, and I just showed you a couple of images that how people reacted to the buildings and to the lighting. Yeah, definitely, it's in our agenda, and thanks to Sentinel North project of Laval University supported this visit to northern Canada.
Great. Well, I want to just thank all 3 presenters today. Super important subject of light and health, and you've illustrated how much there is to be done, and also this very intimate connection with behavior, culture, space, and your research. So thanks for that.